of Beijing Winter Olympics Games. So this is another major event in the development of bilateral relationships. So how do you evaluate the high-level development of PAC-China relationship?
Look, the relationship between the two countries has just got stronger over a period of time. And one of the main reasons is that feeling in Pakistan is that China has always stood with us in our times of need. When Pakistan has, over the years, been in a difficult period, China has stood with us, and Pakistan has stood with China. And we are neighbors. I was in school when the Karakoram highway was being built. And that was a collaboration between the Chinese government and the Pakistan army. And it was a very difficult venture, because the road was very difficult, there were steep mountainsides. And I remember the number of Chinese who died building the Karakoram highway. So the relationship is very, it's a deep relationship. And so over a period of time, it has actually got even stronger. And CPEC, of course, has also linked us, the two countries.
We know that sports always plays an important role in uniting people together. And for this Winter Olympics, it's also a very special time because it is the post-pandemic time. So what expectation do you have when you come to China to attending the opening ceremony of Winter Olympics? What's your expectation of it?
Well, firstly, this is the first Olympics, let alone it's a winter one, but it's the first Olympics I will be ever witnessing. So I look forward to that. And of course, you know, I was a sportsman for almost 20 years of my life. I was an international sportsman. People in China don't play cricket. I'm hoping that as our relationship gets stronger, we will also teach Chinese how to play cricket so that, you know, China can also become a great cricketing team. But I look forward because, you know, it's, as a sportsman, it's apart from our relationship, close relationship between the two countries, it'll be very interesting for me to see a competition. Ever since I have been in politics, I've had no chance to watch any sports.
Yeah. So what do you think the Winter Olympics means to this post-pandemic era?
I think it's a very, you know, pandemic has devastated apart from anything else. It's sporting events all over the world have been affected by the pandemic. So in this context, I think it's a very, for China to have gone through with the Winter Olympics, I think it's very admirable.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम जनाब वज़ीर आज़म साहिब, मैं हूँ शिन्हुआ न्यूज़ एजेंसी की उर्दू सर्विस की जोशुआ। जैसा कि आपको इल्म है कि गिलगित बल्तिस्तान से ताल्लुक़ रखने वाले एथलीट मोहम्मद करीम वो बीजिंग 2022 सरमाई ओलंपिक्स में पाकिस्तान की नुमाइंदगी करेंगे। हम इन मुकाबलों में पाकिस्तानी खिलाड़ी की शिरकत का बहुत खैर मकदम करते हैं। आपका शुमार दुनिया के बेहतरीन खिलाड़ियों में से एक है। मैं पूछना चाहती हूँ कि मुस्तकबिल में आपकी हुकूमत पाकिस्तान और चीन के दरमियान खेलों के ताउन को फ़रोग़ देने में क्या इक़दामात करेगी?
देखिए, सबसे पहले तो जो गिलगित बल्तिस्तान का इलाका है और कई पख्तूनख्वा के भी इलाके ऐसे हैं कि वहाँ स्कीइंग के लिए, और स्कीइंग मेन चीज़ है विंटर ओलंपिक्स की, तो स्कीइंग के लिए बेहतरीन जगह हैं। लेकिन अभी तक पाकिस्तान में हमने कभी सही माने में स्कीइंग के ऊपर तवज्जो नहीं दी। बड़ी कम जगहों के ऊपर स्कीइंग होती है। तो हमारी कोशिश ये है कि हम ये गिलगित बल्तिस्तान में ख़ास तौर पे स्कीइंग को डेवलप करें, और उसको जब डेवलप करेंगे तो हमारी ये भी कोशिश है, क्योंकि चाइना के अंदर ज़्यादा आगे निकल गए हैं, ज़्यादा तवज्जो दी जाती है विंटर स्पोर्ट्स की तरफ, تو ہم سوچ رہے ہیں کہ ان سے پھر کولیبوریشن بھی کریں، کیونکہ دوسری طرف خجراب پاس کی دوسری طرف چائنا ہے اور یہ کنیکشن بھی ان سے ہے. تو ہم اس کے اوپر بھی اب سوچ رہے ہیں کہ پاکستان میں پہلے تو ویسے اسکیم کے اوپر ہم زیادہ توجہ دیں، اور دوسرا ادھر سے کنیکشن گلگت بلتستان اور چائنا کے اندر ادھر بھی ہم سپورٹس کے اندر آپس میں زیادہ ملاپ کروائیں، زیادہ کوآرڈینیشن کریں.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It's Brody Jiang Chao with Xinhua News Agency. So my question is that you praised China's development model on many occasions. And we know that China has developed a whole process, people's democracy, and committed to a people-centered approach. However, the United States and the Western countries try to impose their democratic model to other countries. So my question is that how do you think of China's whole process, people's democracy? Thank you.
The most impressive thing about China, which is accepted by the entire world now, is that the number, almost 700 million people in China have been taken out of poverty in the last 35, 40 years. It's never happened in human history before. And this is what impresses the entire world about China, whether they are in good relationship with China, they are on the other side, they sort of oppose China, but everyone has to accept that this has never happened in human history before. And so if you ask me what impresses me most about China, it is this fact. Because my main objective is somehow to raise people out of poverty in Pakistan. And so, when I went to China, I specifically wanted to know the steps taken for alleviating poverty there. And so the reason why I think that the Chinese model of development is what we want to emulate is because, it was an inclusive growth in China. When China grew, the whole population grew with China. It wasn't, unfortunately, like in a lot of the rest of the world, where the rich get richer and the poor, in fact, get poorer. The gap between the rich and poor gets wider. In fact, in pandemic, we discovered that the poor people got poorer and the super rich got even richer. And so China is a model for all those countries who want to have inclusive growth.
سر میرا تعلق FM 98 دوستی چینل سے ہے. جیسے کہ ہم جانتے ہیں آپ ہمیشہ کھیلوں اور ورزش کے ذریعے صحت مند طرز زندگی برقرار رکھتے ہیں. اس حوالے سے آپ چینی عوام کو کیا مشورہ دینا چاہیں گے؟
چائنا کے اندر یہ جو ہم نے دیکھا ہے کہ ایک تبدیلی آئی ہے چائنا میں. ایک تو لوگوں کو غربت سے نکالا انہوں نے، لیکن سپورٹس کے اندر چائنا کبھی بھی اتنا آگے نہیں تھا دنیا میں جتنا اب پچھلی 2-3 اولمپکس میں چائنا کی پرفارمنس بہت امپریسو رہی ہے. تو اس سے واضح ہوتا ہے کہ وہاں بڑی توجہ دی جا رہی ہے اب سپورٹس کی طرف اور فٹنس کی طرف.
دوسرا میرا سوال یہ ہے کہ حکومت پاکستان ملک کی ترقیاتی حکمت عملی کو جیو پولیٹکس سے جیو اکنامک کی طرف منتقل کر رہی ہے. پاکستان کی ترقی کے لیے چین پاکستان اسٹریٹجک اور اقتصادی تعاون سے آپ کی کیا توقعات وابستہ ہیں؟
دیکھیں، چائنا نے غربت کم کیسے کی؟ چائنا نے غربت ایسے کم کی کہ انہوں نے اپنی اکانومی کو گرو کیا. جو گروتھ ریٹ جیسی جیسی ان کی بڑھی تو انہوں نے اس گروتھ ریٹ سے لوگوں کو غربت سے نکالا. اگر آپ نے غربت سے لوگوں کو نکالنا ہے تو جب تک آپ کی اکانومی گرو نہیں کرے گی، ویلتھ کریشن نہیں ہوگی، تو آپ کے پاس کدھر سے پیسہ آئے گا نیچے سے لوگوں کو اوپر اٹھانے کے لیے؟ تو چائنا نے یہی کیا کہ انہوں نے اپنی اکانومی کے اوپر توجہ دی، لیکن گروتھ کو پھر جب ان کی دولت بڑھی تو انہوں نے یہ نہیں کیا کہ وہ تھوڑے سے لوگوں کے پاس پیسہ چلا گیا پھر انہوں نے وہ نیچے دیا. تو ہماری بھی یہی کوشش ہے کہ جب ہم جیو اکنامکس کی بات کرتے ہیں تو ہمارا مقصد ہی یہ ہے کہ اب زور ہم نے دینا اپنی اکانومی کو بڑھانے کے لیے. اور جیسے یعنی اس کا یہ نہیں مطلب کہ سیکیورٹی کے اوپر ہم توجہ نہیں دے رہے، لیکن ہم خاص توجہ جو ہم نے بدقسمتی سے پہلے نہیں دی اپنی اکانومی کے اوپر توجہ، ہماری اب خاص کوشش ہے اکانومی پہ ہم زور لگا رہے ہیں تاکہ جیسے جیسے ملک کے اندر ہماری دولت میں اضافہ ہوگا ہم پھر اپنے لوگوں کو غربت سے نکالیں.
I'm Shi Buhao from Economic Daily. And my first question is, now, as the new phase of CPEC development focuses on encouraging business and benefiting local people, what is your government going to do to facilitate it? What do you expect for the sustainable development of CPEC? And any expectation for more cooperation on renewable and clean energy? Thank you.
You see, the first phase of CPEC was basically connectivity and power generation. Now the CPEC has moved into the next stages where it's about relocation of industry. We want to develop our industrial zones, our special economic zones. Then we want, especially in agriculture, we want help there to improve our productivity. Because in China, the productivity is much higher in agriculture and livestock yields compared to Pakistan. So we want help there too. And then China has grown these drought-resistant cotton varieties, which we have large tracts of lands in Pakistan where this variety of cotton can be grown. So that's where we're going to get help from China. But also it's in technology, information technology. That's another area where which is basically the future, is the technological revolution in the world is the future. And China has made great strides in that. And so we also want to get help from China in that field.
Thank you. And my second question is, now, some Western countries keep telling lies on so-called Xinjiang issues. But actually, many Pakistani people, scholars, journalists, including Ambassador to China, His Excellency Moin Haq, has visited Xinjiang for many times. They saw the place with their own eyes and talked a lot about it. Have you heard of them talking about Xinjiang? And what do you think of lies told by those Western countries?
There is a lot of criticism about the treatment of Uyghurs by China in the West. But our ambassador went there, Moinul Haq, who's our ambassador in China. We asked him and he went there and he sent us information that this is actually not true on the ground. But what we in Pakistan find it very difficult to swallow is that while they talk about Uyghurs, they do not talk much in the West about Kashmir. Because in Kashmir, the worst violations of human rights are taking place by India. And somehow there is selective silence about human rights in Kashmir, where there's something like 9 million people who are, really basically living in the worst conditions in almost an open prison by these 800,000 Indian troops. So we find it very difficult that while on one side they talk about Xinjiang, but on the other hand there is the silence about Kashmir is deafening for us. And that's these double standards is what we in Pakistan find it difficult.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Chairu from CCTV China Media Group. Now my question is, Afghanistan is now facing a serious humanitarian crisis. Do you think that 20 years occupation and irresponsible withdrawal of troops by the US and Western countries are the main reason for the situation in Afghanistan? And how should the international community cooperate on Afghan issue?
Look, Afghanistan has suffered for 40 years. And it's always because of outside countries who have made Afghanistan into a battleground. And so for 40 years, people of Afghanistan have suffered. And this is now, after 40 years, there's a chance of peace in Afghanistan. Because actually there is no fighting going on in Afghanistan, and this is, after 4 decades. So what should the international community do? The international community right now should understand that people who have suffered for 40 years, and when the foreign forces have left Afghanistan, they cannot just leave Afghanistan without thinking about the aftermath or how the people of Afghanistan are going to survive from here. Because in 1989, when the Soviets left Afghanistan, so did everyone else, and Afghanistan descended into a civil war. And about almost 200,000 Afghans died. There was chaos in Afghanistan. And from that chaos emerged the Taliban. And now, after 20 years, if everyone abandons Afghanistan, the situation, number one, the people of Afghanistan, and I'm talking about almost 40 million people of Afghanistan, they are going to, I mean, you could see the worst humanitarian crisis there. But on top of it, if there is chaos in Afghanistan, then it's possible that the same conditions are created which were created 20 years ago when the US invaded Afghanistan. Same thing could happen again if there is chaos. So what should happen is that the international community should just think of the 40 million Afghan human beings there. Whether they like the Taliban government or not should be secondary. The welfare of the people of Afghanistan should be the foremost, and they are facing one of the worst humanitarian crises right now. And they really need help as soon as possible.
My next question is, in a few days, the Chinese Lunar New Year will come. What are your wishes for the Chinese Lunar New Year? And what are your expectations for Pakistan-China cooperation in 2022?
Well, first of all, let me congratulate the people of China for their Lunar New Chinese Year. So I congratulate everyone. My expectations are that we have a relationship with China which is mutually beneficial for both countries, and we hope that in this relationship, because we are looking to raise Pakistan's economy and the well-being and raising people out of poverty, so we hope that we will, we are already learning from the Chinese experience. But there's one thing I forgot to say, which we want to learn from China, is how they have built their mega cities. You see, China has these huge cities now, and the way they have dealt with the problems that come of having mega cities. And I'm talking about air pollution, I'm talking about, the waste disposal. It's a science to manage a huge city. So unfortunately, our cities are growing at a very fast rate. Pakistan is urbanizing at one of the fastest rates. So we also hope to learn from the Chinese experience how they have coped with their urban development.
Your Excellency, Mr. Prime Minister, as Cui said, our Chinese Lunar New Year of Tiger is coming soon. So we hope you can also express your best wishes to our Chinese audience.
मैं चाइना की आवाम को चाइना का जो ल्यूनर न्यू ईयर है, मैं सारी कौम को पाकिस्तानियों की तरफ से मुबारक देता हूँ.
शुक्रिया. शुक्रिया.
Okay जी, thank you.